Have you ever wondered why some people never post online? Why, in a world screaming for attention, some souls choose invisibility? You might scroll past them every day thinking they're shy, distant, or antisocial. But the truth is far stranger, far deeper. It starts with silence. Not the kind of silence that's empty or lonely, but the kind that hums with awareness. These people aren't absent, they're awake. They notice everything. A flicker of a smile, the subtle tension in a room, the pause before someone speaks. And while the world broadcasts itself in filters and likes, they remain untouched by the spectacle. Why? Because their reality is private, sacred, untouchable. They've learned, often unconsciously, that visibility comes at a cost. Every post, every story, every carefully crafted caption subtly erodes something inside them. Their inner life, their sense of self, becomes public property, judged, measured, and compared. And some, quietly, refuse to pay that price. You see, it's easy to think that not posting is about introversion or social anxiety. But there's a deeper psychology at play. People who stay off social media often possess what psychologists call a strong internal locus of control. Their worth, happiness, and meaning don't come from likes, comments, or shares. They come from within. They've untangled themselves from the dopamine loops that reward performative existence. They live in their own rhythm, on their own terms, untouched by the curated chaos surrounding them. And there's a certain artistry to it. Every action, every thought, every emotion is experienced fully, without the need for approval. Cooking a meal isn't a photo opportunity. A walk in the park isn't a chance to post a sunset. A tear isn't shared with the world but felt deeply in the chest. This discipline, this quiet rebellion, is not weakness. It is strength. But it's not always intentional. Sometimes the decision to vanish from the digital noise comes after exhaustion. Emotional burnout from witnessing others' highlight reels while piecing together your own behind the scenes. It's realizing painfully that connection measured in likes is shallow, fleeting, and unfulfilling. They crave depth, authenticity, intimacy, things that cannot be posted. In this silence, something remarkable happens. They start noticing patterns that others miss. Human behavior, unfiltered. Moments of beauty, unnoticed. Subtle truths about themselves. And as their awareness grows, their sense of identity becomes harder to shake. They no longer define themselves by the world's applause, but by the quiet validation of living in alignment with their own soul. Yet, paradoxically, this choice comes with complexity. Some who abstain from posting are misjudged as detached, cold, or antisocial. In reality, they are processing, observing, and understanding on a level most cannot. Their thoughts are vast oceans, but their expressions are measured. And sometimes this restraint feels isolating. They long for connection, but not the shallow, performative kind. They want presence, undistracted, uncurated. They want someone to see them without needing proof of their existence. Psychologists call this psychological ownership, the deep sense that certain experiences belong solely to the individual. Sharing them diminishes that ownership, exposes them to misinterpretation, judgment, or ridicule. To those who understand this, silence isn't absence, it's protection, a form of self-preservation, a rebellion against a culture that equates attention with worth. And here's the strange paradox. While the world views their silence as invisibility, they are the most alive. Colors are brighter, moments linger longer, conversations feel profound. They learn to savor life without needing to broadcast it. Each interaction, each emotion, each thought becomes an unshared masterpiece. They exist fully, intensely, authentically, in a way the world cannot measure. The truth is, their silence speaks volumes. It tells you, I am not your performance. I am not your content. I am not a fragment to be consumed. I am whole, here, alive, present, and my life is mine. And in a world built on spectacle, this is radical. Some people will never understand it. They will assume the silent ones are empty, lost, or missing out. But the reality is the opposite. In choosing stillness, they have discovered presence. In refusing to perform, they have found freedom. In valuing the unposted, the unseen, they have found truth. And maybe, just maybe, there is a lesson for all of us in that quiet rebellion. A reminder that our worth is not in the attention we receive, but in the depth of the lives we live when no one is watching. That sometimes the most human, the most profound, the most beautiful things cannot and should not be shared. This is why some people never post online. Not because they are invisible, not because they are empty, but because they are awake. And in their quiet, unseen way, they are more alive than most of us will ever be. But beneath this quiet strength lies something even more fascinating: the ability to feel life without diluting it. When most people reach for their phones to capture a moment, these individuals simply breathe it in. The taste of morning tea, the warmth of sunlight on their skin, the sound of distant laughter. These experiences aren't content to them. They're memories, sacred and unfiltered. And because they don't broadcast their lives, they develop a deeper connection with themselves. They don't ask, will people like this? They ask, do I like this? They don't wonder, is this good enough to post? They ask, is this good enough for me? Their identity becomes internal, rooted, unshakable. They are not sculpted by algorithms or trends or the pressure to perform. They exist beyond that. But make no mistake, this silence didn't always come naturally. Many of them felt the weight of comparison long before they stepped away. They saw how social media turned life into a competition: who travels more, who earns more, who smiles brighter, who wins the game of appearing perfect. And it drained them. It made them question their value. It made them doubt their pace. Until one day, they asked themselves a terrifying question: why am I living to impress people who aren't even thinking about me? That moment changed everything. Because once you see the illusion of perfection online, you can't unsee it. The filters, the staged smiles, the borrowed lifestyles, it all becomes clear. And instead of participating, they choose to step back. They choose honesty over aesthetics, depth over applause, reality over illusion. But this choice doesn't make life easier. In fact, it can make it harder. When you stop posting, people assume you have nothing to show. When you stop sharing, they assume nothing is happening. But the truth is, everything is happening, just not publicly. Their victories, their heartbreaks, their breakthroughs exist in silence. And silence, ironically, becomes their loudest statement. Psychologists call this self-determined living, the ability to choose actions based on internal meaning, not external validation. These people are not hiding. They are living. They are not avoiding the world. They are engaging with it more deeply than we realize. When they laugh, they aren't thinking about who will see it. When they cry, they aren't wondering if it looks dramatic enough. Their life is real because it's undocumented. And in that privacy, they discover a rare kind of freedom. Freedom from opinions, from pressure, from constant comparison. Imagine doing something genuinely meaningful without the urge to announce it. Imagine achieving something without needing applause. Imagine experiencing something beautiful and knowing the memory belongs only to you. That is their world. But this lifestyle comes with a shadow side too. Sometimes they feel misunderstood. Sometimes people assume they're disconnected or distant. They're not. They simply value depth over display. They prefer conversations that feel alive over posts that feel empty. They want presence, not performance. They want connection, not attention. And what's surprising is that these people are often the ones who listen the most, care the most, feel the most. Their quietness doesn't come from lack, it comes from fullness. Their silence doesn't come from emptiness, it comes from understanding. They don't post because their internal world is rich enough, complex enough, meaningful enough to keep them company. Yet this doesn't mean they reject the world. They simply engage with it differently. They show up in ways that matter, by being present, by being attentive, by being real. They remember birthdays without needing reminders. They notice changes in mood without needing stories. They show love without needing to document it. Their life is proof that authenticity still exists. And maybe they fear something too. The fear of being misunderstood. The fear of being reduced to pixels and opinions. The fear of losing themselves in the noise. Some experiences feel too fragile, too sacred, too personal to be risked online. Sharing them would feel like exposing something holy. But here's the irony. The people who never post are often the ones with the most extraordinary stories, the most painful pasts, the most beautiful transformations, the most profound insights. They stay silent, not because they have nothing to say, but because what they hold inside them is too real, too raw, too deep for the digital world. And sometimes they dream of being known, truly known, but not by thousands, by one person who sees their depth without needing proof. One person who understands their silence. One person who realizes that a life lived quietly can still be rich, powerful, meaningful. This is the secret world of people who never post online. They live not for the world to see, but for themselves to feel. And in a society obsessed with visibility, that is a rare kind of courage. Some people think silence means emptiness, but for him, silence had become a kind of strength. After disappearing from social media, something unexpected happened. He finally began hearing his own thoughts, without the noise of everyone else's opinions drowning them out. For the first time in years, he wasn't performing for a digital audience. He was simply living. Days passed without a single post. At first, his fingers twitched, reaching for the camera out of habit. But slowly, he learned to see the world without trying to capture it. Not everything needed to be shared. Not every sunset had to be proof that he wasn't broken. Sometimes a moment is beautiful because no one else sees it. He started walking in the evenings. Not for steps, not for an aesthetic shot, not for a motivational caption, just to breathe, to feel the ground under his feet, to remember what it meant to exist without needing validation. And he realized something. He had been living for likes, but never liking his own life. One night, as he stood on a quiet bridge overlooking streetlights reflected in the river, a memory hit him. A time when he used to laugh without worrying if his smile looked good on camera. A time when he used to speak without wondering who would judge him. A time when he used to enjoy things, not document them. He whispered to himself, "Where did I go?" Social media didn't steal him. He gave himself away. Piece by piece, smile by smile, post by post, trying to be someone the world would love while forgetting the real person underneath. But now, he was beginning to meet himself again. Over the next few weeks, he observed the world differently. He noticed the old man who fed birds at sunrise. He noticed the kid who sat alone in the park, quietly humming songs. He noticed the cashier who always greeted people kindly, even when they ignored her. He thought, every one of them has a story, but none of them need to post it. His friends started asking why he suddenly disappeared online. Some joked, "Bro, you okay?" Others said, "Come back, man, you're missing everything." But the truth was, for the first time, he wasn't missing anything. He was finally present. One friend sent him a message that shook him. "People think you're depressed." He read it twice. It was ironic. When he was posting every day, he was depressed, but nobody noticed. Now that he was actually healing, everyone assumed something was wrong. It made him wonder how disconnected the world really was. The more silent he became online, the clearer he became in reality. He stopped chasing aesthetics, stopped chasing trends, stopped chasing the idea of being interesting, because now he understood something powerful. People who don't post aren't hiding, they're choosing. One afternoon, he sat with his journal, a real one, not a notes app. He wrote something that became the truth he lived by. "I no longer want to show the world I'm living. I want to actually live." He closed the journal and felt lighter, like he had placed a heavy burden down. He didn't hate social media. He just outgrew the version of himself that needed it too much. And once you outgrow something, you can't force yourself back into it. He realized, some people don't post because they finally understand the value of privacy, of peace, of presence. Weeks later, something surprising happened. He opened his old social media app, not to post, just to look, to see what once consumed him. As he scrolled, he felt no envy, no pressure, no urge to compare, just gratitude that he wasn't trapped in that cycle anymore. The world kept posting. He kept breathing. Eventually, he learned a profound truth. People who never post aren't mysterious. They're not antisocial. They're not hiding trauma. They're simply living lives that don't need an audience. Their happiness doesn't need applause. Their moments don't need proof. Some stories are meant to be lived, not broadcasted. And you, the one listening right now, you know this truth too, don't you? Somewhere inside you, there's a version of yourself who's tired of performing. A version who wants to exist without being seen. A version who wants peace more than popularity. A version who wants life, not likes. Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe that's why this story found you. Because deep down, you understand why some people never post online.